if we were honest with ourselves, we got a long list of failures. We got a long list of sins. Ain't no need of you looking at me with that self-righteous spirit. We got a whole list of things that if God was not a God of grace and mercy, he would have cut us off a long time ago. But it is wonderful to understand that he loves us despite us, that if we choose God, and the mere fact that each and every one of you are in this sanctuary today, you could have been out golfing, you could have been out on the sailboat somewhere, you could have been at the beach or at the bowling alley, you could have been laying home in your bed, but the mere fact that you got up out of your bed, that you got dressed, spent your gas money to get here, to sit up in this cathedral for 2.5-3 hours to worship the God of your experience, says that you chose God. And because you chose God, I got good news for you. You want to tell your neighbor, God chose me. I'm not perfect, but he chose me. I made mistakes, but he chose me. I have disappointed him, but he chose. Touch your neighbor, tell him he chose me. It is what I like to call the providence of God. And whenever you deal with the providence of God, you have to come to the conclusion that many times when you consider the providence of God, the providence of God is not fair. It's not fair. Because you can take two individuals and one who has lived a morally good life and another one who's just been a scoundrel. I mean just trifling. And yet God will save the trifling one. Lord, I wish I could talk to some of y'all. Some of y'all want folk to think that you came out of your mother's belly speaking in tongues, but the devil is a lie. Is there anybody here that will tell the truth? They say, I used to be a scoundrel. I did things that if folk knew that I did, they wouldn't even sit next to me on Sunday morning. But if it had not been for the Lord who was faithful and merciful, we deal now with the sovereignty of God. And you can never allow yourself, hear me, to get bogged down in trying to figure God out. Because you can live 120 years and never figure God out. Because his ways are not our ways. And his thoughts are not our thoughts. As high as the heavens are from the earth, are his ways from our ways. And any legitimate individual who recognizes the sovereignty of God, you and I sit in amazement. Sometimes I sit in service and I find myself losing myself in the very goodness of the Lord, because I'm amazed that God would tolerate my foolishness. Oh, I ain't talking about you, let me talk about me. I'm amazed that God, he would allow me to get myself into situations, and yet he still covers me. Oh, some of y'all in here, you know you done some stuff that if folks found out you did, they wouldn't even call you up no more. But you ought to tell your neighbor he covered me. It's the sovereign grace of God. And if you're not careful, hear me, if you're not careful, you will take the opinion of critics like Bill Maher, who is an atheist on HBO, and you will begin to believe the hype that God is an unjust God. But I submit unto you, he's not an unjust God, he's a just God.